Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
My name's Landon. I guess
I'm Kason. I'm back.
We're already stumbling on the introductions.
It's all good.
So today we're talking about where's my topics? There they are. Huge Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer dropped just a couple days ago at the D23 conference.
It was huge.
And it was freaking crazy. Along with that, Famitsu also released an interview with Tetsuya Nomura.
Yeah.
And he talked a bit about Kingdom Hearts 3, but also alluded to Final Fantasy VII's current state of its development.
He gave a lot of excuses. So,
he did. And he also said it was a good thing that he's developing both games at once. And I was like, you're freaking kidding me, dude.
He said some funny stuff. We'll go over
We'll get into that.
Well, I'll show you the article from Gematsu.
Gematsu.
And if you want the original source, I'll show you guys where you can see it if you read Japanese on Famitsu. Okay, then we got some viewer suggested topics from Paul Gerver. Says talking about Nomura in an interview this week. I think it might be the same one. Talking about Kingdom Hearts 3. That all the worlds would likely be revealed before the game hits. Do you guys feel that this will be too much info and not leave any surprises for the following for those following the news flow? Sorry, or do you think it's somewhat justified since the worlds this time around have been hinted at being much larger and will contain attraction flow surprises, vehicles, I'm guessing, and other mechanics? Okay, Chris Guin, what is the worst standard battle theme in a Final Fantasy game, and why is it Final Fantasy VI? Those are fighting words. We're going to throw down on you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, number 5. It's a two-part question. Do you think you would be friends with any Final Fantasy characters if they were transported into your area in real life and stripped of all their in-game magical abilities? Assuming they were more or less the same age. He says waifus are out of the question. Not that that would be a problem with us, so don't worry about that. Second part of the question, if so, which ones and who, I'm guessing, could you see yourself, which ones and what would you see yourself doing with them when hanging out? Okay. That's from Zenmen's 96. Number 6, I got a question in case, there's another Chris Guin question. This one is about challenge in JRPGs. Some of his favorite ones, like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, and Final Fantasy VI, he finds are absurdly easy upon replaying as an adult. He wants to know if adding more challenge to those games would improve them, or whether or not the streamlined, I guess, like structure to them is what made them so popular in the first place. Summarize the question. We'll get it in full when we come back. Okay.
All right. Gotcha.
Let's get started with this first one. So if you haven't seen the trailer, I can't imagine you haven't seen it. But if you haven't seen it, it's really good. This trailer starts off with showing a lot of battling and stuff of different areas we've seen before in Kingdom Hearts games.
Well, the letters scrolling across the screen, though.
That was interesting.
Whose idea was that?
It seems like a Nomura idea, as well as the, what do you call it, the justification on all the words. On the black screen with the blue text, and it was like certain words were big, and it's just like it was really erratic.
And it didn't seem like there was a rhyme or reason.
Yeah, it was artsy.
That's my only criticism, by the way. I'm sorry to start it off with a negative, but that was the very beginning of the trailer, and you don't know what's happening for the first 10 seconds. You realize, oh, those are letters. Okay, I get it.
Symbolic.
Why is everything blue?
No one's known what's been happening for the past several years. They had to say, "We get you."
Yes. Via this weird thing. And then they ended up showing the whole sentence later anyways. But they showed a lot of gameplay, which was awesome. Like, I love it when games don't just focus on all their trailers or all the cutscene content.
Yeah. However, when they showed the Toy Story world, and this is actually something that was mentioned in this article, which we'll get to here in a minute, but that the Toy Story team was surprised by how good, what high fidelity they were able to recreate those characters in that world, and that was the first thing.
Toy Story,
it blew me away.
Side by sides, somebody did
literally
side by side on Twitter, and it was like holy crap! Like,
it feels like it's the same models. I mean, obviously it wasn't. If they were all surprised by how good they replicated it,
I was surprised to hear that.
But it was amazing. Down to specific animations from the movies, like the animation where Buzz like thinks and he kind of puts his hand up to his chin like this,
eyebrows go,
and his eyebrows moved, and then he kind of like and his eyes are bigger, and like that's not lifted, it's recreated from the movies, like to the T, exactly the same animations. It's freaking crazy.
They pirated the
so
movie.
That's why they're
like,
that's maybe why this game's taking so long. They're going through pretty crazy lengths to redo work that someone else has already done, honestly, and that they should have had access to.
So Square Enix has always been super. One thing they have really never relented on is their like animation quality. It's always been top notch. They've got some great animators. So you know, there's a lot of Disney people that are animators are almost across the board way into Disney, especially classic Disney. But Pixar, when you're talking about CG animation, I think they're the tops.
They're the best.
And so it's got to be really fun for a lot of these animators to be able to dig in and be like, okay, man, I get it. Like animate Woody, right? Like that's just crazy.
That's true.
That's nuts. Yeah.
On top of that, I mean, going along right side of that, like the battle animations that they were showing in like the front yard of that world, like the way he's moving is it's unbelievable. It's it's top rate animation, some of the best I've ever seen in any game ever.
And when you play, one of the things I love, and this is how 2.8 was as well, but when you watch gameplay from Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2 or a lot of the older games, it's a lot of the same thing. Sora has his like 3 move set, and then he'll do the same thing in the air. And you know, there was magic and drive forms and all that stuff, but they weren't used as often. When you watch the gameplay to Kingdom Hearts 3, it is dynamic as fish. There's like so much different stuff happening, and like such a variety to the skill set and to the moves that Sora and everyone else is doing. It makes it look way more interesting.
And
they showed it really well in that front
animations. Like you came out of this one and
totally
a different look.
Ooh, there was one other thing. When Sora jumps off the roof and then he goes into that skydiving animation. That's what they showed at the last trailer last month, right before E3. And people were wondering, oh, is this him entering the world because he's like skydiving? But you never enter a world on top of enemies. Like that doesn't happen in Kingdom Hearts, generally speaking. And so I think what they showed there was that, no, he jumped from somewhere freaking really high and then came down. So it wasn't just him entering. So there's so much verticality.
He drank a freaking Monster Energy.
There you go. It gave him wings. No, that's Red Bull.
Oh, Red Bull.
Anyways, I thought that was super interesting that they've included the Skyward Sword skydive mechanic in the actual gameplay, not just in the like entering worlds and stuff.
That wasn't some Dream Drop Distance-y kind of stuff.
No. Well, I think they did actually do that in Dream Drop Distance too.
Okay.
But
watching it,
cool.
I was of the impression looking at that has like some extreme levels of polish on it. That's got to be close to being completely finished.
Yeah, totally.
And of course, they always seem to do that with their trailers, and then they come out in an interview later and say like we're not as far along as you think. But it does have a release year.
Yes, finally,
it's coming out next year. We know that.
That's a holiday. That's a holiday, no question.
Oh yeah,
that's holiday. Holiday 2018.
But
I gotta say,
dude, maybe push to 2019. Yes. Anyways,
I gotta say that if the rest of the game is at the same level of quality as what I watched in that trailer, like it's gonna be stellar. Like cream of the crop. Like all this time has paid off. It's gonna be really, really good. So
Unreal Engine 4, baby. That's what you get.
That's Unreal 4. Yeah, that's right.
That's actually a good point. That's actually a really good point.
If you look for him on Twitter, a lot of people have posted side by sides of specific frames that we've seen previously and how Sora looks, and they've really figured out the look for this. Before you could tell it was something in between, something in transition, and now it's like this is definitely. It feels like the same, but its own thing. And when you see the side by sides, how much more polish they've thrown on this, it's really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Also,
go ahead.
You can see Woody's arm stitches, by the way. I thought they were going to redo the story from Toy Story 1.
Oh, but
yeah, they were saying here
his arm's already been re-sewed back on, which means it's after Toy Story 2. We could be seeing a side by side with the Toy Story 4 that's going to come out.
They actually answered that in the interview. So
I missed that.
Nomura, in the interview with Famitsu, he said that it takes place between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3.
2 and 3, huh? Okay, cool.
So yeah, it does take place after Toy Story. But that's a good catch, though. Noticing his arm, I didn't even see that. It's been forever since I've seen the Toy Story movie, so I wouldn't have even remembered which movie it was that his arm got ripped off in. But I guess I would have, because it was freaking the fat.
The Cheetos fingers, dude. That bugged me when I was a kid. He picked Woody up with his Cheeto fingers and held his arm, and his fingers had Cheetos. Like, I don't touch a dang thing after I eat Cheetos until I've washed my hands. Especially not your priceless doll that you're gonna sell for $100,000.
Oh, that's Toy Story 2.
Isn't that 2? Yeah, that's when he sews his arm on his 2.
Right? No, but he gets the arm back in 1.
Is it 1?
He gets his arm ripped off in the... No, Buzz Lightyear gets his arm pulled off in the first one.
Yeah.
It's the second one because... What's his name? Right. What is his name? The prospector guy. He freaking, like, rips it back open again at the end of the movie. Because they had fixed his arm, and then he uses pickaxe to rip it back open, and then it's, like, sort of shoddily done by Andy or whatever.
Yeah. I was just in Reno, and in the hotel room, they were playing Toy Story 2.
Oh, no way.
And so I watched the whole part where the prospector... Major Toy Story spoilers for everybody, but
1999, guys, come on.
Yeah, the prospector coming out of it. That was like the biggest, like, oh my OMG, like, twist at the time. Oh man, I love that.
Yeah,
I've seen that coming.
I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the screen real quick and let you guys see my desktop, because this is the whoa, you guys are above that. I gotta put you underneath. Move down. There we go. So here's the article, if you're interested in looking at it, from Gematsu. Kind of details like the major points from the Famitsu article, which is here, if you want to look at that. But a couple things that they go over here. They're talking about Big Hero 6 world progressing well, so there's going to be a Big Hero 6 world in it. That's
that
really
was
cool.
The last world they decided on for Kingdom Hearts was Big Hero 6 back in 2015. And anything post 2015 will not be in Kingdom Hearts 3. Like Moana,
Frozen,
I think was 20 barely makes the cut.
Yeah, so it could be.
So Frozen will probably be. But that people keep asking, what about Moana? What about what are some other ones that are coming out? Anyways, what about these other movies? And they're not going to be in it. So.
Another thing that they write here is that while the number of Disney worlds are less than the amount included in Kingdom Hearts 2, the density of each world is greater, including gameplay. So they'll be bigger, but less than what was in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Probably, I know in like Kingdom Hearts, some of the games, you'll return to the same world multiple times to do different things, various things throughout the story. And I'm thinking they're going to be doing that in Kingdom Hearts 3 too. You'll finish one thing, go on, and then come back, and then do a little more, and then go somewhere else. And I'm cool with that. I like that. Yeah,
so I think overall the game looks great. A lot of exciting news about it. I'm pretty optimistic at this point after seeing that trailer, and even after going over these points from the Famitsu article. So it's coming. It's finally coming. We know when it's coming, sort of.
2018.
And so that's good. But moving on to the second part of that article, which touched on some of the Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff.
Yeah.
They talked about switching over to the internal production on Final Fantasy VII Remake, which we already knew about, of course.
Right.
But it seems like doing this has sort of... they've got to be shifting gears to some extent. It's slowed up. The decision to do so, I imagine, has at least initially slowed production a little bit while you try to get all those assets moved over and figure out who's doing what and organize all that and move everything, move all the entire production back.
Copy those hard drives, man. It takes a long time.
Yeah, it does.
I hope they're not doing it over USB 2.0. Maybe that's Square's problem. USB 2.0.
Nomura mentioned that parts of Final Fantasy VII Remake are actually further along than Kingdom Hearts 3. So, touching on
what does that mean? Parts of my game are farther along than this other game, where it also has parts that are farther along than this other game.
He mentioned specifically the cutscenes are further along. So that would line up
style right there.
That would line up with the fact that a lot of the American actors have already gone in for recording sessions months ago. So it's likely that they were already really far along on that. They wrapped that up, and now they're trying to lock down gameplay.
Okay.
But interesting to think about, like, some of this game is further along than Kingdom Hearts 3, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is slated for next year.
Yeah.
Does that mean Final Fantasy VII Remake will come out next year? I would think so, but maybe not.
I hope it comes out by next year.
Yeah.
But between the two, I see Final Fantasy VII Remake as being a bigger release than Kingdom Hearts 3 for Square.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And so if Kingdom Hearts 3 is pushing that holiday release, I don't know. We don't know when Kingdom Hearts 3 will come out. That'd be the ideal situation would be Kingdom Hearts 3 in summer, Final Fantasy VII Remake in holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I just have no idea how they're going to work that out. And if Final Fantasy VII Remake may not even come out till 2019 because of that.
Yeah.
They could pull a early 2019 release for Final Fantasy VII. I feel like
that could work.
You could do a March release or something, or do a January. There you go.
The 21st anniversary release of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
21st.
Well, they can drink in the United
drink
States.
now. There you go. That's
a big deal.
Birthday.
Some other interesting points here. He talks about the fact that he's not actually on any of their business division teams. Like he's not part of business division 1. And so he mentions that he's how did he put it here? He says similarly, he's talking about somebody who's from Division 3 who's kind of helping out. I'm sort of like a cross-sectional mercenary not tied to a business division. And if I belong to a business division, I would basically be working full-time at that business division. So it's a system that lets me take on various jobs, including requests from other companies.
Yeah, I was going to say the character design stuff for Xenoblade,
right. For Xenoblade 2.
As well as I've always wondered about that because you knew something was going on when he was credited specifically himself on the title screen for Final Fantasy 15, as well as the title screen from what we've seen of Xenoblade 2. It's like Tetsuya Nomura, like he's got something, his own brand cachet that he's concerned with. His own
brand,
I actually don't find that to be too surprising, considering how Final Fantasy 15 was more or less hijacked from him.
He's taken some precautions.
At the time, it was like, that was his last thing. Was like, well, I at least did this part, and I want people to know that. But seeing him on the Xenoblade 2's title screen in the exact same format is kind of like, maybe there's something else going on.
I mean, I'm sure he's still an employee at Square, but it seems to be that he's got some kind of freelance thing going on. Where he's able to work on outside of the company, inside of the company, wherever he feels like. He's not tied to any specific team.
And there's some precedence for that with a lot of especially big people in the past who've and was it Amano? I'm trying to remember who it was, who basically ended up going freelance, but was really just one foot in, one foot out for a while.
Yeah. Square Games. So, I mean, really interesting article here. He talks about the project lead. I think he talks about it here. Naoki Hamaguchi. And I'd never heard of that guy before. I looked him up here on the Final Fantasy Wiki. And he seems to be, he did visual effects and real-time rendering on Final Fantasy 12. On 13, he did event programming. And he did Crystal Tools development. He was on the staff for Crystal Tools development. He did client programming for Final Fantasy XIV, lead application programmer on Final Fantasy 13-2. So he was a main programmer, project leader. Okay, so his first game as project leader was on Mobius Final Fantasy, which makes sense because they had that crossover with Final Fantasy VII. So maybe he had been working closely with that team and with assets and stuff like that. So anyways, he's development leader on Final Fantasy VII, but it sounds like he's the Division 1 guy that Nomura is working directly with.
So Nomura could just be like, I don't feel like it today. You got to deal with this.
You do it.
I almost wonder if when he talks about how he's not part of the division or part of the business decision-making that happens at that level, if it was even his call to bring that whole production in-house. Or if that was other people who were saying hey, this needs to be done here now, and Nomura's wherever it's done, just make it work.
Is all because he suggested that it be a musical, and they're musical. You're not gonna head up any business.
No more business for you, man. I always wonder though, when a video game is this late, presumably this late in production, right? And they move it all in house. Like, why exactly? Like, I don't know. Square Enix must have like needed to redo a lot of things, or be like, no, this isn't what we meant, kind of thing. Like, do that over. Like, for them to just like take the whole thing in house like this and push the. Oh, they're not going to talk about it for a while.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's who knows? Who knows the reason? That cat was back there.
Yeah, the cat will remain here for a little while.
She was up on top of the thing behind you. I was watching her.
She's pissed.
But the fact that we're not getting any updates for a while is pretty telling.
Yeah, they did say that there's not going to be an update for a while. That was the last point in the article that I wanted to go over. Is that they're not ready to update people about it for a while. I don't know what a while means.
We're expecting it, but not that he wasn't updating us anyways. Like, not that anything's changed, right? He's like, don't expect it for a while. Like, yeah, we haven't gotten it for a while. Like, all right. Thanks for the heads up, dude.
I felt like the last chance for anything to be shown this year was going to be Tokyo Game Show, and if they're saying not for a while, I would assume that means
next year.
Tokyo Game Show is a no-show, and they're probably not going to show anything till next year.
Screenshot, dude. One screenshot.
One
screenshot of
they
stuff we've already seen before.
Yes.
They could maybe show something at Sony's thing in December. That would be like the last possible place for the year 2017 to show something. But this leads me to believe there probably won't be something at Tokyo Game Show. So we're going to be waiting a lot longer. Strap in.
Play Final Fantasy VII. Go back, play
the original.
Just play the original game. Just play the original game. It's just
pretend
a great
it got
game.
a re-release and just play it.
There's some really great mods to try on the PC version on Steam if you want to do that.
Yeah, max out all of the material. How about that?
Yeah, for sure.
Have you done everything there's to do on Final Fantasy VII? I don't think so. Play it again. Do it.
I've done everything except manually master all materia. I've gotten the master materia from defeating Ruby Weapon, and then you go take it to... Emerald Weapon. You defeat Emerald Weapon, then you go take it to the guy at Calm, and he gives you the master materia, but you can get another set of master materia by actually mastering every single materia in the game. So I've never done that. I'm never gonna do that.
That would take years.
You got max out all your items too. 99 Phoenix Downs, 99 Ethers.
Oh yeah, there was somebody I was watching who was saying you can only get 100% of the game if you have 99 of every item inside of your inventory, and I was like, that's BS. That's not true. 100%.
Those are consumables. Those aren't collectibles. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I'm not. That's not. I don't count that. That's not my definition of completing again.
I don't know. I don't know.
Could have bought one more Phoenix Down, man. All that gameplay left to consider.
Exactly.
Oh,
anyways, good stuff.
I just had a thought though. Because thinking if this is one single game and they took it from CR2, what was the company called?
CC2,
CyberConnect, and then brought it on, and that's weird because the game's like well underway and it's just like a huge hassle. But I keep forgetting that this is a multi-part thing, and so part 2 will then stay in Square Enix likely, right? And keep going forward,
which is going to tie
makes
up their
more
staff
sense than I thought at first, thinking like, why are they doing this? But there's more to come. Yeah, that's true. Those staff for the next 10 years of their life,
eat up a chunk because
they're working on.
Nomura mentioned that,
remake.
Yeah, manpower's stretched a little thin right now. So it's
Okay, let's move on to the viewer suggested topics now. First one from Paul Gerver. Nomura, in an interview this week, mentioned that they would likely reveal all worlds before the release of KH3. Do you guys feel this will be too much info and not leave any surprises for those following the news flow, or do you think it's somewhat justified since the worlds this time around have been hinted at being much larger and will contain attraction flow surprises, vehicles, and I'm guessing other mechanics?
That's a good question. I liked the surprise when I played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, even though I was 10 years late. I enjoyed like guessing which world we were going to next, and when you see that weird ball, that like planet, but it's got like some features of like the game and it looks massive and all that,
like guessing,
and you're like, oh, what game is this? That was fun. I did like that. I think it's a product of people from the 90s wanting to like be surprised at things. Whereas people nowadays don't care because they aren't anymore. There's no surprise anymore.
Yeah. The sad truth is that even if they tried to keep it a surprise, someone would leak it.
Oh, totally.
The information would get out there. So I think in the information age and the way that things work today with trying to keep news quiet, it's almost better to just announce it yourself. And if somebody really wants to be surprised, just don't follow news about it. I mean, if you really want to just go in totally fresh, you have no idea what to expect, you probably wouldn't want to follow the news anyways.
I'll tell you what, though, my Twitter timeline after that Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer
blew up.
I don't know how you can avoid it for the next year. It's going to be tough.
You're going to know. If you're on social media, you'd have to really like put in some kind of plugin that cycles out any Kingdom Hearts stuff.
For like the Force Awakens, spoilers. I was able to, for the last 2 weeks before the movie came out, I was able to, and I'll probably do it again before episode 8, I left
like blackout
social media for a while. But who knows when these Kingdom Hearts things are coming, and you can't just leave for a whole year. I mean, you can, but it's just for that. It's not the best reason to do it, I guess.
Cut it out.
And it's just funny. I see it as a total like product from the 90s. Like we talked earlier, Mike, about like Breath of the Wild versus Ocarina of Time, and how Ocarina of Time had these surprises in it, and Breath of the Wild had less of that. But a lot of that is just the fact that Ocarina of Time was in the 90s. If it came out now, you bet we would have known that Adult Link and all this stuff was going to happen.
Oh, right.
And if you followed it closely, they still did say stuff. There was still like, magazine entries and they showed Adult Link and stuff.
Some of the earliest builds were showing just Adult Link.
Totally. But a lot of people didn't follow that, and you had to literally pay money and be subscribed to a magazine to get that back then.
It wasn't just like popping up on your phone.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays it's like, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's all out.
It's
just a different age, and it's kind of unfortunate for people who got used to games in the 90s and how they were, and nowadays it's just so different.
See, I don't even follow that many like Kingdom Hearts people specifically, but I follow enough just game blogs and things,
and they're
stuff on Twitter Plus, sometimes people like to get on the train sometimes when it's like, oh, this tweet's going nuts.
Everyone else is liking it, so let's like it too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only reason that I didn't know about Adult Link in Ocarina of Time at the time is because we didn't have the internet in my house at that time, and I wasn't subscribed to any gaming magazines. So I had no way or even any knowledge of the fact that there was game news out there that I could follow.
I remember, dude. Oh my gosh, I followed Ocarina of Time so freaking closely. I remember in I think it was EGM, they posted like one of the first screenshots of the game, and it was Adult Link with a horse near like an oasis in the desert with like a palm tree. And there was a whole article written about the screenshot, like Game Explain of the 90s. And that they were speculating, well, I guess you could probably ride the horse, right? Like and stuff like that. But I remember getting Ocarina of Time and trying to find like where that place was, because I was kind of upset. I was like, you can't just like guide your horse around like it looked like you could in that early screenshot. I was so disappointed because
walk side by side with the horse and hold the reins.
Oh man, that was my first letdown from seeing something. I didn't realize
first experience with freaking Nintendo lying to you.
I know,
they your face.
But it was funny to see the speculation. Like, we're pretty sure you could probably ride the horse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why there would be a horse anywhere if you couldn't ride it. That was before. I'm trying to think what games had rideable horses at the time.
I mean, really 2D side scrollers, like Shinobi and stuff. But like for a 3D rideable horse, that's some tricky programming.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good point. I don't know if there was another 3D game that lets you ride a horse in it, but I know Back to the Future on the Sega Genesis had a horse riding section.
That's great.
It freaking sucked. Anyways, to answer the question more directly, I don't have a strong opinion on it just because I'm at the point where I just accept the fact that most of what's going to be in a game is going to be out there, and I'm going to see it. As long as you can try to avoid like major story spoilers, like characters that die and things of that nature, I'm okay. But a lot of times I'd like to know.
Spoiler alert: no one is going to die. In fact, many people will come back to life.
That's the opposite.
Not saying who. Not saying who. It's going to happen.
But yeah, I mean, if you can avoid, for me, if I can avoid major plot spoilers, I mean, it's kind of nice to know, like, I mean, it is nice also to be surprised and to not know about like specific worlds, or not to have all the worlds spoiled. Like to know there's gonna be a Toy Story world, that's cool, and there's gonna be a big Hero 6 world, and that's cool, but maybe cap it there. Like I don't need to know every other world that's gonna be in it. You know?
Yeah.
Some level of surprise. So you'll just have to monitor that on your own and figure out for yourself how you're gonna do that. Whenever a big Disney event or a Square Enix event are happening, you might just want to stay away if that's a big deal for you.
It's going to be hard. It is going to be very hard
to
keep away from that.
Because it's a long time away. I mean,
it is, yeah.
At least another year or more away for the game's release. So,
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. When were the other Kingdom Hearts games released? Were they released in the holiday season?
Good question. I'm not
I think Kingdom Hearts 2 was holiday. I think Kingdom Hearts 2 was in November or something.
In 2005?
Like no, in America, I think it was released.
It was released in later.
Early.
I think it was 05 December in Japan, but then like March or something to 06 in America, something like that, if I remember correctly.
Kingdom Hearts 2 release date.
I know like 2.8 came out in January.
December 22nd, 2005. I think that was Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. And then a few months later in America, right?
And then the North American release was March 28th. So that was early. Early release. And then what about KH1?
KH1.
Because, I mean, maybe this would be a good idea if they could do it. They do an early, it was in March of 2002. So if they were release Kingdom Hearts 3 in March of 2018, and then have Final Fantasy VII Remake for holiday 2018. That would make sense. You wouldn't be competing because they're not going to release them at the same time. You're going to cut in your own sales, right?
Yeah.
So that would make sense to me.
Oh, one more thing I think Nomura mentioned that we didn't talk about was somebody asked him about a Switch version of the game. And he said it would be possible that they're considering it, but it wouldn't be till after the release,
other versions had been up.
Yeah. So you won't get it right away.
I mean, similar to the Dragon Quest 11 thing, where it's like there will be a Switch one.
Sometime.
Cared enough about the game, you would have played it somewhere else already.
I'm still upset that there's not a Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac Age Switch version. I think that would be a really great game to put on the Switch.
I actually saw a few other people complaining about that.
I don't know why Square Enix isn't supporting the Switch more.
I mean, it could be just because
at this juncture,
the Switch wasn't unveiled until so late that it's like these projects would have had to have been considering that for development a long time ago.
That's Nintendo's own fault.
Well, Nintendo only gave certain people dev kits like a year ago or whatever. So.
Yeah, only recently. No. Nintendo's own fault.
It is what it is. It's an awkward time. But I think the Switch will pick up speed next year for sure. After all the big releases this year. It's already selling out. But,
so I don't know how much more speed
it'll pick up speed with third-party developers is what I mean.
Yeah, with games.
We'll start to see more games being announced from third-party developers next year.
I think next year we're going to see a lot, yeah.
Everyone who this spring was like, "Ooh, wow, what the fetch? Oh, big game now."
I guess we'll do that. Yeah.
All right, a good question.
Paul,
thank you.
I do agree with you, Paul. I just, what can you do now?
What can you do?
Like, to me, I believe it sucks. I would rather have control over whether I know certain things, and not have to like blacklist all my friends for a year. But this is the world we live in.
How do you change the nature of the internet?
Yep. How do you do that?
How can you change the nature of the internet? I just finished playing Planescape Tournament today, so that's the famous question from Planescape Tournament. How do you change the nature of a man? I think is what it is.
You put him
how do you change the nature of a man? I think that's something like that. Anyways, I beat that game today.
Nice, dude. Nice.
On the Patreon stream.
With Walrus, right?
Walrus, yep. Totally.
Nice.
Okay, Chris Ewan's question. We're going to throw down on this one, dude.
That's right.
What is the worst
good?
standard battle theme in a Final Fantasy game, and why is it Final Fantasy VI's? It's not Final Fantasy VI's. Let's go ahead and pull up what I think is the worst standard battle theme, and then let's listen to Final Fantasy VI. Now, you guys can't hear my
your desktop?
We'll just imagine.
We'll think of it. Tell me which one is worse.
Look it up on YouTube or something. So we're going to play Final Fantasy VI's first, but you guys know it.
Yeah.
That song's like perpetual.
Yeah. Awesome music. Okay, hold on. I gotta get the freaking song up here.
When I first played that game I first actually really played that game on an emulator, and the music was kind of jacked.
Oh, really?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of those games
It's
sometimes
like skipping around.
Sometimes it would get off.
Okay, here it goes. This is actually, it might be my favorite battle theme from the whole series. I love it.
They kind of, other than Final Fantasy 9 and maybe 12, they kind of embraced the electric guitar from Final Fantasy 7 on. And that's one I think, it worked for 7. I just
I have no idea how you can dislike this song. I have no idea. It's super percussive. It's really catchy. I think it's one of the best, to be honest. The one that I think is the worst is Final Fantasy V's battle theme. That one really, I mean, most of the games have really good battle themes. So I mean, it's hard to pick a worst. Yeah. But the only battle theme in the entire series I don't like is Final Fantasy V. So I'll play that real quick. It's just got this weird progression in the melody. It doesn't sound exciting or dangerous. It almost sounds kind of like yucky, not yucky, like hip, like goofy, like yeah, guys, like I don't know. I don't like the mix of it either. Like the instrument choice,
it was kind of harsh, right?
Do you know what it reminds me of? There was this little electric keyboard toy that my brother got for one of his birthdays when we were really little, and I have a video of it somewhere. But there was this really weird song that used instruments that were super like silly and weird. I wish I could pull it up and show you guys, but you'd know what I mean. But like. We would laugh at the song. We would laugh at it because it was so like weird and silly, and then we'd do these like silly dances to it and stuff like that. And like that song, like the instruments chosen in it remind me of that a lot. I just don't think it feels dangerous or exciting, like almost at all. And you hear it all the time. Like the battle theme in an RPG, in a JRPG, is like one of the most important songs in the game, because you'll hear it more than almost anything else.
It will be on repeat, especially if you have the random encounters, and that will get annoying real quick.
Yeah,
I feel like that I've heard pretty much every Final Fantasy battle theme is better than the Dragon Quest battle theme. I've never been a big fan of the Dragon Quest battle theme.
Yeah,
just mostly because they basically use the same one.
It's kind of the same one over and over, isn't it?
And over, yeah. It's like
the themes very
the old school Pokemon battle theme, like red and blue. Like I could listen to that one for forever. I wish they would use that exact same one every time.
Over and over. Yeah.
Personally, but with Dragon Quest that they use over and over, I don't.
Yeah, it
gets to me.
Battle music in Final Fantasy is generally excellent, and so it's hard to pick a worst. I know that some people aren't big fans of the Final Fantasy 13 battle theme because it's got that strange like soaring sort of like violin that comes in.
It changes.
It sort of changes tone.
It changes the whole feeling of the song halfway through. But it's a song that's supposed to be on repeat as the battle goes, and so it is weird to constantly be going to this triumphant influx of, the whole song gets elevated, but you may not have actually, you're probably getting jacked in the battle when that happens. It didn't happen at the right time for you, and so it doesn't have an impact. It's just weird. Well, that's my personal feeling.
It feels like there was a band and there was a violinist, because that was big back, Yellow Card era.
Yellow Card, yeah.
There was a violinist, and they're like, okay, fetch the violinist, hasn't done anything yet.
Put it in.
Can't just have him stand up there for a whole set.
Yeah. I understand those criticisms, and they make sense to me, but I really like the melody that violin plays. Just in terms of just listening to it, I think it's really nice.
That's the best part of the song to me.
It is.
Yeah.
They just kept the best part. Instead of the whole
that
first,
and make the whole song feel like, because it kind of builds up to it with like it's some percussion and some low strings, dun 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 dun,
which sounds more like a traditional Final Fantasy battle
It's like
song, right?
building up to something.
Yeah.
It comes out
First
of
time I
nowhere,
heard
right?
it, though, it took me. It was that.
I was very much by
I was like,
surprise.
what the?
I have good
crap?
memories with that song though, so
Yeah,
Can't-
I like the song a lot. But there are some people that don't like that one. But I think Final Fantasy V's, far and away for me, is the worst battle theme of the series. Don't like it even a little bit. It's a freaking annoying song, in my opinion. And how on earth do you not like Final Fantasy VI's battle theme? Like, explain to me how you don't like it.
Final Fantasy Nines is one of those that's a little more borderline for me.
Yeah, actually, I kind of agree with that too.
I feel like it's
pull that
a
up.
little more repetitive.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like it's a little more repetitive, like a little too repetitive.
it's
but
still good though.
it's not bad, but
Yeah.
Here's the battle theme.
it has that little.
This one, the mix is really wide, so like it doesn't feel as percussive or like as sharp as a lot of battle themes because there's just very big instruments going on, so you can still pick up like the individual beats and the music, but I like this song.
I don't not like it, but of the Final Fantasies I've actually played a decent amount of time of, that's one that I could like leave it or take it. You know,
Yeah.
like not really attached to it.
Yeah,
Never gets
I would
stuck in my
say
head.
it's
Never
lower
gets
tier.
stuck.
It's lower tier when it comes to battle themes,
Lower
but still
tier.
good.
But lower
Still
tier, I mean, when you know, lower tier for Final Fantasy,
Better than Dragon
it's
Quest.
still exactly. It's still elevated above most other.
I like Dragon Quest.
RPGs
I don't
and
like
games.
Dragon Quest Battle Theme. Anybody who like, I'm not dissing on Dragon Quest, just diss on Dragon Quest. It's just
I love the freaking title theme of Dragon Quest games.
And that's one that's
cracks
carried
me up.
over from forever, right? They always have
Yeah,
had
it's
the
been
same
there from the
song.
beginning.
I'm more
It's
okay
just
with
so
that.
funny.
But yeah,
Yeah.
just
I love
random
that
battles
song.
are so frustrating sometimes when you get into one of those themes. That's great.
Okay, good question, Chris. Let the arguments begin in the comment section. Okay, moving on to Zenmen's 96. Two-part question. Do you think you would be friends with any Final Fantasy characters if they were transported to your area in real life and stripped of all their in-game magical abilities and status? Assuming they're still more or less the same age as in the game, that puts a little bit of a strain on it because we're all a decade older than the Final Fantasy characters now, but still have their memories and personalities and may not necessarily want to be friends with you. So waifus are out, but platonic male-female relationships are fine. And part B, if so, which
Well, that's
ones...
just keep us from picking like the hottest Final Fantasy character.
If so,
We'd get along.
which ones and what could you see yourself doing with them when hanging out? You know, playing basketball with Cloud, or maybe teaching Snow.
Cloud can't play
read?
basketball. His hair. How is he going to shoot a basketball? He would
Dude,
stab.
I was so beastly at that Golden Saucer basketball minigame. That's how
true.
I
You
get.
did
That's
actually
how I
do
get
it.
all my points at it. That's how I get all my points in the Gold Saucer. I strictly
snowboarding,
rely on the
go shoot
basketball
hoops.
game.
That's funny.
This is a
I
hard.
forgot
question.
he actually did play.
It's a really hard question.
It is because these characters are extreme personalities, and they're really they're really depressed, or they're really angry, or they're really
They've been through some hard stuff.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, sure, you'd still want to be friends with them. I'm not saying that don't be friends with those kinds of people, but it's hard to judge. I don't know. I just don't have any friends like them. There you go.
I'd be friends with
Vivi's
Vivi
friends.
for sure.
Vivi.
Vivi's
And
easy.
Vivi's a friendly.
Yeah, he's
person.
easy to
Like,
get
Cloud is
along
not
with.
friendly.
He's an approachable. He's an approachable character, and
Yeah.
just the way I am with people I know, with friends. I'm usually better in one-on-one situations, like most of the time, that I am in groups. So usually when I'm able
That
to sit
seemed like
down
Vivi
one-on,
was similar.
yeah, like sit one-on-one with somebody and talk them through something they're going through, or have like a deeper level conversation like that. Usually that's where I'm better in terms of my relationships with people, and when I get with a group of people, I sort of recoil from that. So Vivi is probably someone I'd get along with a lot. I'd say what we would do.
Well, he doesn't have magic in it.
Yeah,
Talk
he
about-
uses magic.
Talk about the futility of life and our immortality, and come to grips with it.
That's right. Be like, we're all
Philosophical
just copies
conversations.
of genetic data. I feel you, Vivi.
I don't know. Beyond
think,
that, I mean, go see movies.
Right, there you go. He'd enjoy movies. Vivi would love
he would be way
spectacle
into
movies. He
would wonder if they were real or not.
That's true. Jeez. Vivi's got a hard life, man.
Did Transformers 7 actually happen?
The moon, like, look at the moon. Or wait, was that 4?
I don't.
The dark side of the moon.
The newest one seems like
the third one, I think.
Come out of the ground this time.
Yeah, the dinosaur Transformers come out.
Yeah. For me, there's two that come to my mind, and mostly just because I think they're cool. I don't know if they would like me at all. But,
see, there's the other question. Would Vivi like you, Mike?
I would try. I would try to be friends with it. Vivi tends to just.
I know,
right?
he's friendly.
I would say Locke, because I've always thought Locke is freaking cool.
Locke's a beast.
And we would start like a club, like a secret club together. Because he's just
a secret treasure hunting club.
A treasure hunting club, exactly. And then he always felt a little Han Solo-y to me.
Yeah. I know.
And then this one, I don't know if we could actually like really be friends, but Zidane or Zidane. I just think he would be a fun person. Yeah, exactly. Not that I think that I relate to him specifically, but I feel like he would be a lot of fun to hang out with.
He'd be fun.
Because he's not really like ashamed of anything he does, and that can be a problem, but that can also be
He's the kind of guy you'd go into like climb trees and go explore, like
just screw around,
go hike in the woods.
Well, he's really open and accepting too, so it wouldn't be hard to be his friend. He'd be eager. He'd be eager to like let you come hang out with him, right?
But then he might do something that would get us in trouble, and then
exactly.
And that is But I think of Zidane. I think of so he resembles some of my friends from back in the day.
Like Brandon
Wellman.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking of.
He feels a little.
He totally feels that way. But also, so I would probably gravitate towards more of like the goofier characters in the Final Fantasy games, like characters like Kate Sith, or I don't know that I'd really hang out with Kate Sith.
BFFs with Kate Sith, dude.
I'm just giving a
Kina, dude, that would be fun because all you do is be freaking like trying food. You could do a whole like food show and like travel the world,
and
be on freaking the Food Network
/ her like English or whatever, and just like, hey, this is here you go. But like the first person that truly came to mind is somebody who I'd actually be like genuine friends with was the Afro dude from Final Fantasy 13, the guy with the bird.
Oh, Saz.
He to me is the most like normal-ish.
Yeah, normal guy.
The people I know, except for that. But like, you know, his reaction to things, it would likely be my reaction to some of the similar things that he's witnessing.
Plus, you had an afro.
I did have an afro.
Blonde over that.
And I played basketball.
You didn't have any birds in your afro, though.
No, I didn't have a bird. I don't think so.
Did you even try, though?
No. But people like that, like people who are, you know, like he's trying to be friendly. He doesn't have the greatest skill set. He's not, you know, but, you know, he just seems like a fun guy to hang out with as long as crazy things aren't going on around him. But
that's a good pick.
Yeah. Or honestly, probably the Final Fantasy 15 guys like Prompto, or, you know, people from that game. And I think that's what separates Final Fantasy 15 apart from any of the other games, is that the Final Fantasy 15 people are people you could be friends with, because that's a big dynamic of the game. It's like these are more or less normal-ish people. Yeah, they're not completely crazy. They're not like Noctis has issues, obviously. They all have their own issues, but like they seem more complete people to me, as opposed to kind of caricatured.
They're patterned after more realistic expectations, I guess. Besides some obvious exceptions.
Many very obvious exceptions. But, you know, people like that are the people I tend to actually hang out with. But that's just to say, like, that's because you kind of get to know them a little bit better on a personal level than you do most of the other Final Fantasy games. Mm-hmm. Like what they're like to hang out with. I don't know what Cloud's like to hang out with. I really don't. He didn't hang out in the game. But in Final Fantasy 15, it's all about like hanging out, and you know.
Maybe aside from the date with one of the number of characters, but even in that scene, he was super awkward. So
exactly, he was weird, and he wasn't like yeah.
Zach from Final Fantasy VII would be a cool guy to know. I think
he would be a fun guy, yeah, and he's friendly. He seems like he'd be a cool guy, and that's mostly in his interaction with Cloud, or if you've played Crisis Core with everyone else. But in Final Fantasy VII, how accepting he is, and how willing he is to like
mentor
mentor. Yeah. That's a trait that lends itself towards someone who's more easy to be around.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good guy. I like him, and I'd probably like to hang out with him. Cloud would be harder to get along with.
He would.
Whether during the game, before the game, or after the game. He's just a guy that doesn't want people around most of the time.
Yeah.
It's all good. Maybe post Advent Children he warms up. Maybe. We'll never know.
These games are just people who would... They're scarred people. They don't want to hang out, except for Zidane maybe here. But yeah,
good picks. Moving on to our last question from Chris.
Hold on, I have an idea really quick. We don't do this right now, but someday we should do a Final Fantasy draft. Like
dude, absolutely.
We each have like a team.
You have to have
Final Fantasy. Wait,
we'll have to invite we'll have to invite some other people from Discord into it, so we have at least like 15.
Yeah, get a league going.
And then you do a draft. It would be the first pick in the first round.
Monetary value for each character.
A real fantasy.
And a salary cap for each person.
Yeah. Oh gosh. That's
fun.
tough. They have to assign a value to everything. Oh my god.
That'd be freaking crazy.
Became a whole thing.
That would be crazy. We could do that for the Super Bowl.
Okay, Chris Ewan. Second question in the same podcast. Holy crap, got it twice.
Good work, man.
Hey, I got a question in case you need one. I've noticed that I tend to appreciate more challenge in my turn-based JRPGs. I feel like it reduces the tedium in some areas, like in FF10. I might even look forward to combat sometimes. What I realize, though, is that my 3 favorite JRPGs, FF6, FF7, and Chrono Trigger, are all almost absurdly easy if you know the general JRPG conventions. I recently replayed all of them without grinding a single extra enemy and very rarely had a problem. Do you think those games would be improved with a higher intrinsic difficulty level, or do you think their creative success has something to do with the streamlined difficulty curve and the rapid story pacing that's easy combat allows? Very good question. I do think there's something to be said about the fact that most of those games you mentioned are like first RPGs for a lot of people. It's throw a Super Mario RPG in there, and like those 4 games are like almost everyone's first JRPG.
the gateway drugs.
Yeah.
Into RPGs.
At least for people who grew up playing games in the 90s, like those were the 4 games where it's like, this is how you get started playing JRPGs. This is the starting point. You learn the conventions from these games, and then you move on from there. I mean, no doubt, I struggled big time with Final Fantasy VII and Chrono Trigger in my first playthroughs of those games.
Yeah.
Well, not so much Chrono Trigger. When I played it in the 90s, I did, but when I played it again when I actually finished it for the first time on the DS version, I had a better idea of how to play JRPGs at that point. But I struggled big time with Final Fantasy VII, which was my first JRPG. And I could not beat Hojo at the end of Disc 2. I couldn't beat him.
Dude, in Disc 1, I couldn't beat Reno in the elevator. I was like, I had no idea what I was doing. And I had played Mario RPG at that time. That was funny.
Yeah, it's so, I think that developers have new players in mind, especially at that time. I know that Chrono Trigger, when it was going through its, testing with players, they reported that a lot of people were saying, oh, the developers are cruel, this is way too hard, and so they significantly lowered difficulty in that game for that reason. So I think that it might be one of those things where when you've been playing JRPGs for 20-30 years or something, you start to look for more challenge in them, but it's going to be hard to find that in the mainstream, because the mainstream big AAA JRPGs like Final Fantasies are always going to be designed for new people. They're always looking for a larger audience and more people. There's nothing wrong with that, for me at least, as long as they tell good stories, which I think is the whole reason I got invested in Final Fantasy in the first place.
Right, yeah.
So
Final Fantasy 15 even says that right at the beginning. It's like for old timers and newcomers alike, or however they put it. It's like, okay, this isn't for
ages 5 through 99.
Yeah, exactly.
Ages 5 through 105.
5 through 105. So it's like, this is for new people, is what it's really saying. They don't want you to feel bad, but this is for new people.
Yeah, I would say that one way to mitigate that to some extent is to just have a hard difficulty. Like, if you can, like, put a hard difficulty into the game. Don't make people play through the whole game to unlock it first. Just have it there at the beginning and let people choose their difficulty.
That's kind of what Kingdom Hearts does, and that's
I think that's a really good way of doing it.
Style.
So anybody can jump into that and go like, I want this kind of experience out of it and get it. But even if that's not available, I still think that I can get a lot of enjoyment from a game as long as the story's real good, even if the game's on the easier side.
Right.
Because it's primarily why I'm playing it anyways, to participate in a really good story. So I don't think that a harder difficulty would necessarily improve the experience for me, but I know a lot of people do that. They'll mod Final Fantasy Tactics and they'll mod Final Fantasy VII and Chrono Trigger, these games, to make them a lot more difficult, and that could be fun. On the 15th playthrough you've done, we know exactly every single strategy for every boss, and you don't think about it anymore.
At that point, it's not the game's fault for being too easy, though. You've played it a lot.
Just play the crap.
You know what to do. It wasn't that easy when you first played it, and I think that's probably the most important thing to point out. That these games aren't about how is it when your fifth time playing it. It's like your first experience with this game. They need to balance it for that. And if they do a good job there, then...
Yeah, was the difficulty on point in your memory the very first time you played Chrono Trigger?
Like, did you never
have to think about it? Did you have to change your strategy? Did you have to use all your potions in your inventory on a battle? Like, if it was challenging to any degree on your first playthrough, it was at the right place for you. And for me, that was definitely the case with FF7, even though today it's like, oh yeah, you grab the beta enemy skill, you're freaking like invincible. Final Fantasy VIII, it's like you get the Kiraga, or if you junction Kiragas by what do you call it, where you take the tents. You can buy tents and then you can turn them into Kiragas.
Oh yeah.
Forget the term for it. Anyways, then you junction that to your health and you get like 4,000 health right at the beginning of the game. Like, most people did not know that you could do that.
Exactly.
Did not figure that out.
Final Fantasy VIII is a great example of that.
So, I mean, like, the fact that it's in the game, sure, it makes it so you can cheese it really easily, and the replay value loses a little bit of, value there because of that. But I don't think that's the fault of the game or the game designers, especially if on your first playthrough you had any boss you fought where you thought it was challenging. And
yeah.
So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah. I think there are some games that, like, there's different philosophies on, like, grinding in games. Some games don't want to have a difficulty where you feel like you ever should. And some games, like Dragon Quest is literally their core point and mechanic and main complaint most people will have is, like, I've got to go grind and this is BS. It's annoying. But the game developers are like, well, but that's, like, you earning a thing.
Exactly, yeah.
And I've always felt like
it could have story significance too.
It could. I've always appreciated more creative ways of making a game harder than just the numbers are higher. You know what I mean? Like, like, for example, like, I've been playing Etrian Odyssey. Actually, I haven't in like the last month because I haven't had time. But up until about a month ago, I was playing Etrian Odyssey 4, and what they do when you're in certain mazes is there's like a really, really strong dude you're avoiding. There's random encounters. And those will be your just typical mobs that you're fighting and stuff. But there's always like these big guys that you do not want them to catch you. And when you're using up turns in battle, they can like gain on you outside of the battle. Like, they can still move and get close to you. And sometimes they'll get close enough to like jump in the battle you're part of. And you're like, and then you just have to try and run and run and run.
That's pretty cool.
I appreciate approaches like that, increasing the difficulty of games. Not something like you could theoretically try to grind and grind to like get strong enough to fight those dudes, but it doesn't make any sense the way that the flow of the game works. You'll be strong enough to fight those dudes if you do your normal thing, avoid them. If you work out until you're at the next level of the maze or whatever, you'll backtrack and you'll kind of be able to handle those guys better. And I like stuff like that. I like approaches like that. You don't need to grind, but they've added something extra that is more dangerous and kind of,
you know, when you think about it in terms of story relevance, and you know, like if you're playing video games specifically for a story and not nothing else, but little else, I guess that is the most important part. Thinking of other like stories in general, whether it be books or movies or plays or anything else, the grinding elements don't really exist. Like what would be
grinding when you read?
What would be grinding?
Well,
the montage,
the songs,
read the poems.
It's
the montage in Rocky. The montage in Rocky. The training montage is grinding.
But that's the thing. They take what would be grinding,
if you watch that whole
were you to watch the whole thing, and they turn it into a 2-minute fun clip to watch, and now the movie can continue. They essentially skip over it.
It doesn't feel mentally taxing.
Yeah, they fast forward it. Exactly. It's not a big part of, you know, you got to see that it happened, but you're not. The way it works in video games is that is more than half of the game.
Yeah.
So a lot of these RPGs is you're grinding.
It's the difference between observing the person and rooting for them to win, and then like being the person. Like you actually have to go through the work. You have to actually do the training.
And that's probably where video games shine. And in that sense, there's an argument for, you know, grinding, or at least some form of it, right? But
I would rather it not be repetitive.
Hinder the story. It does hold things back a bit.
Yeah, that's true. They need a boxing training simulator where all you do is just like train for a fight.
Just do sit-ups in a
just
barn.
Go through the grind every single day.
Dude, I just had a great idea for a YouTube video. Any of you guys can steal this because we're not going to do it. Play video games to train for a fight, and then go out and actually fight somebody. Like
Street Fighter 2.
You set up a boxing match. Exactly. Play games or like arms, right? Right? Dodging, do all the things. And then set up a fight like a month down the road and just train really hard and study all the video games, but don't actually hit a punching bag. Don't actually do anything, just video games. And specifically the like Wii boxing and all that. And then go and fight somebody and see how it goes. Probably get jacked, but that video would go viral for sure. If anyone wants to start a YouTube channel and get 1 million views right off the bat, do that. And
what was that Murray says in Fly the Conchords, where something like they are cool in their minds. He is a boxer in his mind.
In his mind.
Oh my gosh.
Good question though.
That was a very good question. Definitely a harder game will feel like a better payoff. But there's cheap ways to do it, and there's more creative ways to do it, I think. Grinding, just level grinding thing after thing, feels a little on the cheap end to me.
Well, thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for the participation.
Thank you.
As always, we collect our questions first from Patreon. So if you are a patron, ask your questions there, and we will gather them together. If you're not a patron, you don't want to be, that's also fine. You can just ask in the comments section below, and we'll take a look at those too, if we don't have enough Patreon questions. If you're listening to this audio only, please check us out on YouTube at Dark Pixel Gaming for our gaming analysis, and at Dark Pixel for filmmaking and visual effects.
Yep.
We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you again soon. I think I'm going to try to finish that episode Prompto thing this week sometime on a stream, maybe Friday or something.
That's a good idea. Actually, I noticed after, okay, so you guys probably already know this, but I'm a dad now. I have a daughter. She's wonderful. Yes. I noticed there was like a spike in our view count, and I was like, what happened? And I looked back, and it was from your Final Fantasy XII review update. And I was like, oh, yes, freaking course. That one's got like...
You know what's funny about that one is that got plugged into YouTube's algorithm somehow.
Really? Because it's not even the review; it's just an update saying that.
And it has about a 10% dislike ratio because people are watching it who don't know what we do on the channel, and so they're like, "Why would you review the old version of Final Fantasy XII? That's retarded. Are you stupid?" And it's like, no, but you could take 2 seconds to look at, like, you could take 2 seconds to look at the channel, see what it does before you comment, because that's all we do is talk about old games. So, anyways, that's the reason why. I think it got a surge of views within like our subscriber base because they were interested in knowing information about it, and then because of that, it was like, oh, YouTube's like, oh, this is getting seen. This must be a good video. It's got a lot of watch time. Let's show some other people this, and then it showed it to other people, and people were like, F this video. What is this? And then it was like, oh, whoops, that was a mistake. Stop. All right. Anyways, it's weird because YouTube will choose that video, which I made in less than an hour, to push out to YouTube, but then Lannon's awesome lost in translation video that he took months to make, it doesn't get pushed anywhere. It's friggin' the worst system in history.
The other video before that was my Final Fantasy VII Remake misses E3, and that one got a ton of views too, and that's like an hour for me to make.
There were a lot of people that thought your title was clickbait.
It wasn't.
And it wasn't.
It missed E3. It was just me talking about how it missed E3. That's not clickbait.
It's literally not clickbait. Like, it does not fit anywhere within the definition of clickbait.
What were they expecting? How was I baiting them into watching my video?
I have no idea.
Anyways,
I mean, people are dumb. You guys aren't dumb. You guys are beasts, especially all the people who watch this all the way through the end.
We're talking about everyone else. Present company excluded.
We'll see you guys again soon. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Peace out.
Yeah.